This is a Norman Northstars Extra. Joining me this time on the Northstar Show, the guy whose dad gave me my first job ever. Kind of worked for Tom a while ago. My friend Tom O'Brien. Now here we are on TV.
Right on.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I know.
it's crazy.
Cool. Whoever knew. And the guy who handed me the white gloves, former keeper of the cup with the Munn Cup. Apparently having your name as Bruce helps you to get the job as the keeper of the cup. How many years did you do keeper of the cup?
I did about seven years.
7?
Before I gave them to you. And then there was 2 without, and then you took it from there.
And then I jumped in. I think I'm in 5-6ville, so it's almost time I move that on too. We worked together once here too. We did the alumni game, and one of the most fun games that I've been associated with. Fun night.
It was a fun night, and that night Ronald McDonald came, right? Ronald McDonald came that night, so it was really added to it.
Just in case you thought we were a couple clowns, we brought in a real clown as our intermission guest.
Yes, we did.
So Tom, you two guys have been doing the North Star broadcast for an awful long time, and we've wanted to get you on the North Star show. It took the threat of the show being canceled for us to finally get organized to get you guys on. We got a North Star game that's going to happen here right away. How long have you been doing the games, Tom, and how did you end up with Bruce as the guy on your side?
Well, I think actually I started doing it a little bit before Bruce did. I used to come set the equipment up, and I used to have other people that kind of came and would help out, and eventually I said, well, if I'm already here, why don't I just become part of the broadcast? And then one day I was short a play-by-play guy, and I turned around and asked around the rink, and somebody said, well, Bruce could do that for you. So we started, and after that game, I said, Bruce, if you want the job, it's yours. And 19 years later, here we are.
19 years later, you're still doing it. Give us your side of that story. I think it's similar, but you weren't just here to watch the game, so how did this go down? How did you end up in this spot?
Well, yeah, it's similar, but well, everybody knows Terry Murray, and Terry, well,
voice of the North Stars.
Oh,
We've
yeah.
had some good ones. Darcy Delier, who's coaching down here, another good voice. A couple good ones, but nobody as good as Terry.
No, Terry was the man. And it was a Halloween night on 1998. It was Halloween. If it hadn't been Halloween, Bruce, I probably wouldn't have remembered it. But seeing it was Halloween, I walked in here, and he said, Bruce, you want to do the game? And I said, well, I'm doing the game in the box. He said, no, go upstairs and do it up there. He asked me if I wanted to do it. Frank Bear, I guess, was here at the time. And so I come up here, and Frank was there, and I shouldered in beside him. And that's where it got a little confusing, because Frank was going to be the play-by-play guy, and I was going to be the color guy. But I had to change that right away, because I always done play-by-play. So I didn't know nothing about doing color. So he was gracious. He said, yeah, go ahead, do it. So took it over for there, and that was 19 years ago.
19 years ago. A little bit of talking over each other, and you got it sorted out. Obviously you enjoy doing this. You've been doing it for 19 years, so why do you do it? Is it the fame around town? Do you like hearing your voice on the radio? Is it the love of hockey? What brings you here once a week?
All that big money Tom gives me. I make a lot of money doing this, and no, we do it for fun, actually. But Tom has been gracious. But Tom and the CHTM have been really good to me, and I really enjoy doing it. Tom is the professional here, as you know. Paul is here. Tom is the professional, and I just do what I see out there. But I've done this for a long time, and me and Tom now became a little bit of an item. I think we bounce off one another pretty good.
A going concern, absolutely. So no formal training, on the job only?
You know, any formal training I ever got was probably in my backyard doing, you know, like when you're a kid, right?
Absolutely.
You did it yourself probably. And back home, I'd have a little net in the backyard, and I'd be by myself just doing the play-by-play. Everybody in the neighborhood thought I was nuts at the time. I probably was.
Still are.
Still are. Never, you know, I never grew out of that, I guess. I never ever thought I'd ever do anything with it until Tom said, want to do it. So then I said, hey, maybe there is some hope after you grow out of your kid years.
Absolutely. Till Terry Murray sent you up to the booth. Tom, obviously, I mean, you run the radio station. You've got lots of on-air experience. Had you done anything like hockey games or sports before you jumped into this?
No, you know, it's growing up in the north, growing up in Flin Flon, being here for a number of years as well, you kind of get a love for it. And I really like watching these players. Some of them come up when they're 15. They're young. They're a fraction of the size they're ultimately going to be, or the weight, but you watch them progress from one year to the next and the next. And one person that just kind of comes to mind right now is Braden Pollock, who played and gave it his all, but just didn't have the size and the speed and the grit and maybe the intention to really excel. But as he went along, I remember that last half of the last year he was here, all of a sudden I think he scored more points in the last half of that season than he had in the previous 2.5 years. So it's fun to watch that progression with these young players.
I think Braden Pollock's story is one that I love, that I wish every sort of hockey coach could see and hockey parent, because he said he never played a year up in minor hockey. A lot of times he was on the B team or the lower team and then worked his way up. Northstars, you're right, he didn't shine in the first year, and in the end he was the captain of his team, and then he went on down south to play further. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think that's a lesson for everybody, that just because you're, you know, A#1 when you're 9 years old doesn't mean you'll be the captain of the Northstars.
Well, and they're young kids. Like, I mean, I look at this team right now, and I kind of worry for them a little bit, because this has been a really tiring, troubling year, and I want to make sure, like, you know, I want them to come out of this season feeling good about things, and it's hard to do that when your record is what it is. But I hope that, you know, the coaches are working on that, and that this doesn't become it's kind of a defining moment in their lives. I don't think it will be, but, you know, there is that risk, right?
Yeah, I think for sure. And I mean, you guys have been watching these games for an awful long time. Has the game changed in your eyes in the last 19, 20 years?
You know, I think it has changed. I just think that there's another level of hockey that has evolved. I remember as a kid growing up and curling, you know, and players from the north could compete provincially occasionally. So every now and then you'd have a team that was just above average and could do well. There's no way in hope that anybody from Thompson really is going to be able to go up against Jeff Stoughton. And I think hockey's evolved that way as well. We had one of the Winnipeg teams come up, and it was during the year of the strike, and the coach said, yeah, well, you know, the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets dropped by just to give us a few pointers. Well, that is never going to happen in the north, and it could be just a little tweak that now becomes part of the DNA of hockey in Winnipeg, and we just kind of miss out on that. Our distances, we just don't have as many kids, there's not as many hockey programs. I mean, there used to be, how many midget players in Thompson was there 20 years ago compared to today,
3 or 4
right?
teams, and now you're lucky to get enough for one team.
And, you know, Snow Lake had a midget program, and there was a Bantam program anyway, and there was just a lot more programs and a lot more players to choose from. So we'll see where it leads to.
Yeah, it's time to take a hard look at where we're at in terms of not just our team, but the game. Has the game changed? I know we're seeing in the NHL now, the speed there is just, it's mind-boggling, right? There was a time when you had to be about my size, but another 100 pounds, and you just knocked everyone through the boards. Now you got these Connor McDavid. Have you seen the game change here?
Oh, I've seen a big change here, especially the dynamics in the north have really changed. And like Tom elaborated there, and I want to echo that. In the north, we are a shrinking violet here. Flin Flon, the Paw. You look at the dynamics in Thompson with all the shutdowns and stuff. Junior B hockey has a little bit of an impact in Cross Lake and Norway House. All of this is impacting the north. We can't afford to get impacted because of that. And if you look at the minor hockey system, as you alluded to, they're shrinking. If you go into Flin Flon or the Paw, you probably won't see midget hockey players lying around hardly. You know, not in a house league.
No.
You know, house league here used to be pretty big.
Yeah.
Used to have 5, 6 teams. You played in it. And now there's no house league. So, you know, you can't feed the beast unless you got something coming up, right? So, and that's something that has to be looked at.
Yeah.
But you know, not only here, I found in the rest of the north or the rest of the south, we've been talking to some of the AAA players or coaches when they come up here, and they're going through a little bit of this. The only thing is that they seem to stay afloat because they've got some talent lying around down there, and lots of it. Yeah. Even though they're shrinking, they still seem to come with some good players.
So they're just a few years behind us. Maybe in 15 years we'll be hearing the same thing from them.
Well, maybe. I mean, I hope that there's some solutions. Certainly AA hockey seems to be competitive out of the north. The Bantams won the league championship last year, and the AA midgets have done well this year and so on. So, you know, it's not that we don't have good players. Brady Keeper came through this program. Anthony Keeper, his brother, is leading the OCN. You know, we've got some players in the Western Hockey League that have spent some time here and playing university hockey. So it's not that we don't have quality players. We absolutely do, but to field a complete team seems to be a bit of a challenge right now.
That's where we're struggling, and keeping them in the north and not having them leave the north, right? We were just talking about that. There's a couple of really good Bantam players that we're hoping will stick around. What are some of the most memorable, speaking of that, you mentioned Brady Keeper and some of those guys, what are some of the most memorable things you remember from your last 19 years, just crazy games or things that come to mind?
Well, I mean, I think as you think about it, you come up with more and more, but maybe the All-Star game that was held here a number of years ago, about 10 or 12 years ago now, and Tanner Kurchinski was, you know, on that team, and he really shone in that game, and the whole town crowd, and you know, that was a pretty bright light here for hockey, and he had come through such a whole lot of adversity, you know, as being in a car accident after making the team, and you know, there was a goaltender that the Northstars were hoping to have, who lost his life in that car accident, Pearson, and so that was a pretty special moment.
That was a big one. How about for you, Bruce? Things that you reflect back on?
Well, I can't think of the guy's name off the hand, but there was a guy in Flin Flon came. Remember they had the explosion in Flin Flon, and his dad came up for that game. This eludes me now. I'm losing my mind on that, but Pruden, that's right. Pruden was here. His dad got into a very serious accident in Flin Flon with the mine, or the smelter had that explosion, and he was burned pretty bad. And this was in August. I still remember that, and it was quite a tragic thing. But he said he would be here for the opening of that of the Northstars that year, and it was in October, same as that, every year. But the point of it all was he did make it. He was in rough shape. He came in here. He was here. The puck dropped 30 seconds in. Pruden had the goal. I think he got 2 that night. They won the game. And it was just, you know what? It brought a tear to my eye. It really did. It was
Magical.
That time, and the other time was when the Warriors. Remember, we advanced to play the Warriors back in 2000. I think it was around 2001. That was before they went to these 4 teams, three in Winnipeg. But back then they used to have 4 Winnipeg teams. One was the Warriors. They were a strong team at that time. We won the preliminary first round, moved up to play the best team, which was the Warriors. And we went down there and took 2 games from the Warriors. We had them down 2-1, and Nigel Dawes was on that team. He wasn't too shabby of a hockey player, and they come up here, and we had them. They had us down by 1 late in the game, and it was LaPointe scored the goal. Jeff let a shot go, scored the tying goal, got us in the. Well, it didn't go to overtime quite yet. It was still a minute left, and we took another shot on that goalie from the Warriors, and just about ended their season. Puck bounced around on that crease. He managed to fall on it and save it, but then Nigel Dawes put an end to it there in overtime. They went on to, I don't think they lost another game in the playoffs. They won the series, because they beat us 8-0 the next day. And then they went on to win it all, never lost a game. But we had them on the ropes, but it was an exciting game.
Literally within an inch of their lives,
yeah.
And it's exciting to call those. The players have a lot of pregame rituals and routines. You guys, any superstitions? What's the game day routine look like? Do you have spaghetti every time before you come down here?
No, I think the biggest thing for me is to try to get here in a little bit in advance in case some of the equipment doesn't work. Takes all the pressure off. I like to come here and watch the warm-ups and kind of just absorb some of the atmosphere.
Yeah, but not today.
Not today, I guess. And I usually spend a couple of hours just kind of going through and preparing a few notes and so on, and kind of immersing myself in what the team's been doing and what the league's been doing and what these teams are doing. And that's been my ritual now for the last couple of decades, I guess.
Well, and obviously that's not a hassle for you. You've been doing this for a long time, and I'm guessing you enjoy spending a little bit of time surfing around the league, seeing who the players are, staying in touch with this stuff.
Yeah, I do, and I feel better knowing that no matter what happens, every now and then a guest doesn't show up, and I have to fill an intermission or something. So that's where that comes in handy, is having a few of those little bits of information. Ron McLean does it, so I just try to be like Ron McLean.
I think we all do. And you, pregame routine, Bruce, 6 beers before you come down here just to loosen up a bit?
No,
that's how the last guy lost his job.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'd be able to do this if I had 6 beers, or maybe I don't know. No, I'm like Tom there. It's not a before the game thing. Through the week, I'll print some stuff off, and like him, I'll get some notes down to take a look at it and try to get some of that pronunciation down. And that's a key thing. I always found that there's nothing worse than listening to your name being. And I do enough of that. I can do that easily, but I try to talk to the coach before and get the names proper as I can. But sometimes you get tied up and twisted around in your tongue there. But you do what you can. You do the best you can. Sometimes it comes out good, sometimes not so good. As you know, much Guggenheim, remember that name?
I'll never forget that, but I practiced it 10 times before I had to say it at the opening day
that was a tough
thing.
Name.
That was a tricky one. Quickly shortened down to Henry Much.
Yeah.
I love that. Last one, guys. How many more years are we going to see this lovely partnership carry on?
I have to admit, this year I kind of had to examine my commitment to the whole thing. But I said, as long as these guys keep lacing up the skates, I've got the easy job. I'll come out and I'll try to tell people what's going on.
I hope it's lots of years. You, same story?
Well, as long as Tom, every year, I just say, Tom, are we on? Tom says, yeah, we're on. So as long as he keeps saying, yeah, you're still here, because everybody asks me, says, are you doing the game next year or that? I said, well, I haven't got fired yet. I got no emails yet, so until Tom says it's over, I guess. Or I leave town or go in the box, one of the two.
I know with the North Star show, we're always scared we'll get canceled, but luckily Tom's the boss. So who cancels themselves? This is not going to happen.
My wife.
Yeah, that's good. When Sue says it's over, it's over. You should stay in touch with her instead. That's a Norman North Star Extra. Guys, it took 7 years to do it this time. Can we get a commitment to do it again a little sooner?
All right, good job.
All right, thank you. Tom O'Brien, Bruce Cameron, right here on the North Star Show.